Welcome back to another episode of The Cure for Cowardice. Now, I was having a hard time thinking of what to talk about in this video because not a whole lot has changed since yesterday. But it actually brought up a great point that I heard in a video by Alex Hormozi. And the question that he was asked, I believe it was on a podcast with Chris Williamson, but the question that he was asked was, how do you differentiate between when something is actually not going to work and when it's time to pivot and when you just need to do more volume of something in order to get results? Because that's something that I have struggled with throughout almost my entire life, and I'm sure that a lot of others have as well, which is if you're doing something that you feel will get you a certain result, but you are not seeing the result yet, it's like, to what extent will you continue to work without seeing the result? And how do you know when it's time to pivot and try something different, as opposed to just press the gas and keep going? And the way that he put it was that if no new information has been presented, that he will keep pushing, because then that's a volume issue. If the same set of circumstances exist under which you originally made the decision, then it's just a matter of pursuing it until you get the result that you're looking for. But when new information is presented that either changes the outcome that you're working towards, that changes the actions that you're taking, maybe you're doing it wrong, or just otherwise, if new information is presented that changes the original assumption that you had made, the original hypotheses, then that is when you pivot and you basically switch strategies. Now, the reason that I bring this up is because this main job that I'm doing, when I first started, I was told that if I did it full time, that I should have a sale within the first 30 days. Now, I started off doing it part-time, and I had my first sale within about 2 weeks, I believe. It was a small one, granted, but it was there. Now, since then, I have a whole lot of them that are extremely close to going through and would not only pay very well, but are very reputable clients that once we start working with them would make it significantly easier to continue getting more sales. But since that one, nothing's gone through. And mind you, that was, I want to say, October. So we're going on like 3 months now. And I guess what it comes down to is no new information has presented itself. Now, I have tried a whole lot of different strategies, different ways of doing it to try and figure out the best possible way. But what it really comes down to is it just takes some time to get the ball rolling. But once it is, when they start hitting, they'll start hitting all at once. And then at that point, so long as I keep going, I'll constantly have things closing and coming through the pipeline. Now, the thing about this is so many of us will go after a goal, some form of goal, and we'll say, I want this result. And we know it's not going to be easy, because if it were easy, then it wouldn't be worth doing. But we start going after it, and then all of a sudden we have a hiccup, we have a roadblock. And some people don't have that high of a tolerance for those hiccups, for those problems that arise along the way. and they run into one problem and they're like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. They keep going, they run into another problem, and they're like, man, that really sucks. They run into another problem, and all of a sudden they're like, well, maybe I don't want that end result after all. And instead of pushing and gassing it like they should, they basically either change their goal so that they can justify quitting and giving up, or they don't even justify it and they just quit. And then they're bitter for the rest of their lives because they pursued their dreams, it didn't work out, and now for the rest of their lives they're telling everybody that they ever meet not to try and go after their dreams because they're probably going to fail too. And it's a really serious problem, I think. I think it's something that most of us have experienced at some point or another as somebody who's just bitter because it didn't work out for them. But realistically, when it gets hard, when you have not the 4th, not the 5th, but the 20th, the 50th, the 1000th problem along the way, if you do not have any more information and you still want that end goal, which you do because otherwise you wouldn't have started pursuing it to begin with, but you still want that end goal, it's not a matter of like figuring out a way to change that goal, because all you're going to do then is you're going to end up bitter and you're going to regret it. And I heard a quote once that's one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I think I want it on my tombstone, but it says, hell is where the person that you were meets the person that you could have become. And when we look at it from that perspective, I don't want to die with regret. I don't want to die with any what ifs. I don't want to die with any situations that I think to myself, maybe, just maybe, if I had gone a little bit longer, if I hadn't quit 3 feet from gold, I would have been able to accomplish that thing. And so here's another thing, which is very interesting to me. One of the things that Hormozi's been talking about a lot, if you can't tell, I'm a big fan. If you ever see this, Alex, I'm working with you someday. I don't know how yet. I don't think I want to sell my company to you, but I definitely want to work with you. Maybe I'll sell a company. Who knows? Anyway, regardless, one of the things that he is saying is the degree that you are able to go without any kind of gratification, like the extent to which you can delay your gratification is what I'm trying to say, is directly proportional to the rewards that you'll receive. And there's a million examples of this in business and in every other aspect of life. And it's like, if you want a really, 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 really big end result, a really big goal, which you should, by the way, because it's your goal, it's your life, you're the one who has to live it, you should set your sights as high as you can possibly fucking imagine, because chances are, if you do, you're going to get there, and then you will have a further horizon, and as a result, you're going to be somebody who not only has a fulfilling and satisfying and happy life, but also somebody who enriches and empowers everybody else around them to pursue their own dreams and goals. Side tangent, but if you set these really massive goals like I do, like a lot of people should, it's going to take a long time. In fact, it's going to take so long that any other sane person is not going to continue to the point where you will. And that is why you will win. It's not the fact that it's worth doing that makes it hard. It's the fact that it's hard that makes it worth doing. I don't know if that makes sense. It made sense in my head. I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been on this path now for longer than I've ever done anything without seeing the results of it. But I see progress. I see that I'm getting closer. I see that I'm getting better with my pitches, with my presentations, and I see that sooner or later something is going to give. And I will continue on this path no matter how long it takes until that happens, because I know that this is the way that I need to go in order to get to where I want to go. Now, if new information presents itself that changes anything about what I'm doing, sure, at that point maybe I'll sit down and I'll reconsider how to better achieve my goals. But my goals are not going to change. And by the way, if you're curious about what my goals are, right now I want to create a company that allows the people within it, as well as the other companies that we work with, to all be benefited to such an extent that it would hardly be imaginable otherwise. And I know that that may or may not answer questions, but as of right now, that's as much as I'm going to say on the subject until I am in a closer position to those goals. So anyways, if no new information has presented itself, you have to be ready to do marathon after marathon after marathon with no end in sight. And if you are willing to do that, you can achieve anything that you can possibly imagine. And not only that, but if it's worth doing, then it's worth doing regardless of what it takes. So anyway, I think that's what I got for this video. I got a shift at the restaurant later. I'm gonna go home, smash some food, go pick up my buddy, and yeah, I'll catch you all on the flip side.